Hello, I'm Jonathan Clark, and in this video I'm going to be talking about a new device that I created. Have you ever been going down the highway and somebody drives up behind you, maybe they tailgate you, or they drive too close, or they refuse to pass you no matter what you do or how slow you go? Well, this has been a very frustrating problem for me. I really get annoyed with some of the habits that a lot of drivers have. And so I decided that I wanted to create a device that you could use to send messages to drivers. Not hostile messages, I don't want to encourage road rage, but what I would like to do is send messages to drivers to help them be more aware of what they're doing and maybe even help them improve their driving abilities. JDisplay is an 8-character LED display, kind of like a reader board, and it actually is able to display messages to people. As you can see, JDisplay has 8 dot matrix characters. Each character is a 5x7 LED dot matrix grid. The whole display has 280 LEDs built in. It has a number of other components that help to drive those LEDs, as well as 3 embedded microprocessors which control the operation of the device, a series of logic gates which allow each LED display to be controlled individually, and a control pad, this here, which allows the user to enter any one of 9,999 numbers. This gives it a lot of flexibility. It means that I can program in up to 9,999 messages, and I'm even working on figuring out a way to program in more. Like many of my devices, JDisplay has a number of different components. The display itself is made up of several sections and several pieces. These black things here on the bottom and on the top are transistors. They allow the microprocessor, which can only output a few milliamps, they allow that microprocessor to be able to power the entire display. Back of JDisplay, we have several different things. We have here, this is the display control chip. This is essentially the master chip for the whole thing. It contains all of the words, it contains all of the messages, the display modes, everything. It controls which characters turn on at what time. This is the character control chip. This chip performs more of a slave role. It turns on and controls each individual character, but is not able to control which characters turn on and which characters can turn off. This is a voltage regulator, a 3.3 voltage regulator that's always required when dealing with these microprocessors. Power switch, obviously. This back here is the power supply. JDisplay runs on 4.5 volts. 3 AAA batteries seem to provide enough voltage and current for the whole system to operate, although it is a bit of a power hog. 16 milliamps times 7 LEDs is on all the time when the display is in its operational mode. So you can see a message being displayed on JDisplay. You may notice that there is some flicker with the way everything is working. It has to do with the way JDisplay works, turning on one column of LEDs and then turning it off, then turning the next one on and turning it off. Then that's done for each individual column of each individual character. But there's another chip that controls which characters are turned on, the display control chip. So it'll turn one character on. While that character is on, the columns are being turned on and off, on and off. Then the next one turns on, then the next, then the next. And it continues to do that. It's doing it so fast that the human eye can hardly see it. JDisplay has several different display modes. I showed a couple of them to you at the beginning of this video. What the display modes are is they control how I'm able to display messages on the screen, depending on the situation. Sometimes it's really nice to just display a very quick, very subtle message. I'm going to turn JDisplay on, and I'm going to go ahead and display one of my favorite messages, Jonathan. So I display Jonathan on JDisplay, although not really practical when we're talking about traffic safety. Well, This is the fixed display mode, and JDisplay has no problem doing this. The next display mode is called the scrolling display mode. Now the scrolling display mode is very interesting. This is an example of an arrow that will tell the person who's driving too close behind me that they need to get around you. Now this arrow is a scrolling display. I have messages that I can display with this particular method as well. For example, I can display this. Why not pass? The next mode of display that JDisplay is capable of is what I call flash display. It's where it will flash a series of messages. This is a flash display mode. And so this is another message you might want to display to somebody who's following you extremely closely on the road. JDisplay was a fun project to create. It is by no means finished. I still have a lot of different things that I'd like to add to it and a lot of different upgrades. It's an interesting thing with embedded devices. This device went through a process of hardware design and development. I did quite a bit of work to design it and to create the hardware for it. It also went through quite a software development process. I have a lot of the basic software resources created for this. This has been a fun project to work on, and I hope to complete several other projects. In the next video, the next project that I'm going to make, I'm going to be creating another autonomous radio-controlled car. This one's going to have 4 sensors instead of the 2 that the first one did. With 4 sensors, I'm expecting to see a lot more flexibility. It's difficult to start a new project when this one isn't entirely finished, but that's one of the things that I'm going to go ahead and implement within the next couple of weeks.